monsters, the big boys, the kaiju, the city destroyers, the motherfuckers. Swear in 6 seconds, well done me, fucking never getting monetized at this rate. I love kaiju, and I mean, like, who doesn't at this point? The Monsterverse has grown over the years into something entirely different, and I always just saw it as a goofy little side project. I always saw kaiju as this thing to be respected and treated like a horror, probably because, you know, my only kaiju movie up until last year was Cloverfield, until that franchise turned into, you know, a completely different thing. Can we even call this a franchise at this point? It's more of a fucking cinematic universe. Before, you know, that was a fucking meta. I'm getting sidetracked. The point is, I had a kaiju hole in my kaiju heart, and it was not being filled by what was releasing. Kaiju movies are almost exclusively being, you know, fucking backlined for blockbusters and Hollywood bullshit. And I can get why. If you ever make a kaiju movie, it's effectively taking out a big-ass fund on a CGI mess that could cost millions and definitely bomb, unless you have a big name behind it. Get it? Big... Now, I never liked the big latex rubber suit Godzilla motherfucker. I don't know why, maybe just because I saw him in a more goofy light, but, you know, yeah, I never cared. I was always somewhat intrigued by his cool roar, but I never really gave a shit about any of it. Even back in 2014 when I heard there was a Godzilla movie, I was just like, oh. And then I went on with my life. Ever since then, I've been ignoring the Monsterverse completely and, you know, just fucking starving myself for kaiju content. I think I've rewatched Cloverfield like 19 times at this rate. Also, disclaimer for the rest of the video, my voice is groggy as shit because I screamed a lot. I choose the best times to film, and also upload regularly. Anyway, the point is, I got into the Monsterverse over, like, the time span of my last video, and, it's actually not that bad. I mean, I definitely have a changed opinion from what it was before, but I still kind of feel like it's goofy, especially with the recenter adaptions. I don't know, I guess I don't have to explain how I feel by looking at this movie. The entire idea with this video and any subsequent videos I make about the Monsterverse is just a look at monsters from someone who doesn't know shit about the lore. Like, I know a little bit about the rubber suit men and, like, fucking Biolante from that one ARG, but I don't really know shit about Godzilla or any of that noise. So this will be a look at all the Monsterverse movies as a guy who knows jack shit about Godzilla. Let's go. Hit that subscribe smash button and eat your sister or whatever. God, I fucking love being sick. It's so cool. So cool. Anyway, the year is 2014. Godzilla is getting a new movie and people are like, what the fuck? Last adaptation we got to see of this big lizard was fucking Roland Emmerich's. And you know, that sure aged well. But hey, a kaiju movie needed to be made, and these people took the reins on making a kaiju movie. And this was that movie. Now, I did some research on, like, the promotional material for this movie, and all the hype behind it before it released, and I mean, I was actually kind of thoroughly impressed. They got a pretty star-studded cast here, and, like, they fucking pulled, dude. The promotional material is scary as shit. Definitely has some ominous, I'm about to get my shit kicked in by a lizard vibes, you know? I mean, hey, we even got Walter White here. The only reason I'm saying this is because the internet has made me think Bryan Cranston is Walter White. Kind of funny considering he fucking dies in like the first 20 minutes of this movie, but you know, we'll get to that in 10 seconds. Which is another big thing. This movie is fully focused on human beings and their perspective of the monsters. A very unique way to look at it that would be completely fucking lost in the subsequent films. I don't know how to feel about this movie, I'm gonna be real with you. On one hand, I do genuinely like it. It itched my horror vibe to an extent. I mean, this isn't nowhere near as serious as Cloverfield. I mean, it's still Godzilla for fuck's sakes, but I don't know. It felt like he was treated with respect. He was big. Really big. And he looked fucking scary, dude. He wasn't a lizard, he was a bear, and I was insanely excited. Like shit, the scene where he screams and like appears on screen for the first time, and that one scene where he walks past the airport, shit got me tingling. And yet again, I don't know shit about Godzilla. This is definitely the most serious movie in the entire franchise too, which is kind of a good thing. sometimes. I don't know, we should probably just get into this movie so that I can actually explain what I like and don't like, you know, like a real fucking reviewer does it. This movie, like any great movie, starts with conspiracy theories, because fuck the government. There's this, like, really cool scene of, like, VHS footage and stuff of a bunch of Japanese, like, senators, whatever, in the 40s bombing a fucking ocean with nukes. It's apparently played off as just, like, weapon testing, but it's also, you know, hinted at that this is what's creating Godzilla, or at least, you know, making him 10 times worse. Godzilla's origins aren't really, you know, solid in this universe. We then cut to the post-opening where we see Bryan Cranston on his birthday. He's been diagnosed with lung cancer, and in a desperate attempt to make money for his family. So funny. I bet I'm the only one to ever make that joke in the entire internet. Subscribe to me. I'm so good. No, for real though, Bryan Cranston is a nuclear, like, waste agent or whatever the fuck. I don't know. He's a smart guy, and they're picking up some weird seismic activity, and then his wife dies. It doesn't really matter. We cut to the future where we get to see his son, who was like a little boy but now works for the military. Yeah, he's, what the fuck's his name? Ford? I'm just gonna call him Ford, I guess. I don't really care about their names, but at the same time, I feel like saying Aaron Taylor Johnson is just gonna get really irritating. Anyway, so Aaron Taylor Johnson's finally getting disbanded from, like, Navy SEALs or whatever, I don't know. I can't remember, I watched this movie, like, a while ago. And he finally gets to see his wife and daughter, you know, woohoo. I find it kind of funny that Elizabeth Olsen has a pretty small role in this movie. I mean, she's here for, like, 10% of it, and then she's just gone. Hell, even Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think he says like a total of 200 words. Man really did not have a character arc. He is purely like a visual novel protagonist. Motherfucker's just there for you to, like, place yourself into a situation. Like, I think the one thing that they ever emphasize about him is that he never liked his dad, and that he's good at defusing bombs. Also, his dad fucking dies, and then that's never brought up again. Which we should probably get to. So on his first night of returning, he gets called by, I can't even remember who, to say that Bryan Cranston, his father, is now, you know, been arrested. Again, for goofy government treason-y shenanigans. You see, Bryan Cranston blames the entire nuclear attack that killed his wife on some shady government shit, and thinks for a fact that they're hiding something nuclear and big and dangerous. And of course, you know, he wants to get justice and whatever, so that's his entire arc, until, I shit you not, he dies in like 30 minutes. The audiences were pissed at this, and I really didn't care. I found it kind of funny. I mean, what a Chad move. Man comes in, man elaborates on a fucking government conspiracy, man dies. Like what? His son doesn't even really give a shit. For the rest of the movie, I think he mentions it, like, maybe once. Which is kind of funny, considering the entire start of the movie brought it up like it was going to be this long, drawn-out character drama. I don't know. These movies have very weird human arcs, and none of them really lead anywhere or make me give a shit for any of the characters. Hell, as the movies go on, the characters just get more obnoxious, and, like, I don't care about any of them. It's a fucking monster movie. They shouldn't be, you know, well-written or whatever, but still, I mean, give me something here. You can't have the CG monster on screen all the time to save budget, so you can just have the good actor, you know, fucking make him say the funny line. Make him do the air fryer thing. Anyway, turns out this government, whatever's been trying to keep an unhatched egg of a Muto, but that fucking fails, and the Muto comes out, and then the villains of the movie are revealed. I don't know how I feel about the Mutos. They're definitely not the worst villain in this entire, like, franchise, but they're just really big bugs and, like, a starter villain to get Godzilla off the ground and fighting. And I mean, yeah, they're pretty effective at that. If I had to compare them to Kong's starter villain, which is, like, you know, the Skullcrawlers, I'd still prefer the Skullcrawlers. They just have a way cooler design and energy, but I don't know, the Mutos still felt imposing at some points. Even if, you know, they were barely here for most of the movie. Now, I'm not going to give a full plot by plot. I don't really think this movie is interesting enough for that. The Mutos escape, they fuck up Tokyo, and Godzilla comes in and beats the shit out of them. And then they fight again later in California, and then he gets his shit kicked in. And then he fights back, and Actually pretty cool. No, what I'm really here to talk about is the man, the monster, the fucking legend, Godzilla. I'm sorry, I'm sick. Now in the MonsterVerse, Godzilla has this thing of just always awakening. No one really knows where the fuck he is at any given time, but they know he exists. They kind of work with him and are very horrified of him. This one guy called Dr. Ishiro Shirazawa just knows that Godzilla is like this force of nature that comes out when anything is too powerful, so they can absolutely beat the shit out of him and then, restore order or whatever. And I mean, most of the movie is just the humans trying to find reasons to not have these massive creatures fight, maybe being able to deal with the Mutos before they cause more damage or whatever. Which, I mean, yeah, to an extent, I guess that's cool, but it's also really drawn out. I don't think this movie should have been 2 hours long, especially considering we only get like 3 scenes where there are actually monsters fighting. I guess they had to work on a budget here, and I don't know, it feels a lot more centered around humans, which isn't a bad thing, but it's also not a good thing when these humans have no fucking character whatsoever. Well, this is a mess. We should probably, actually start breaking the video up into parts before I start losing my mind. Let's talk about the things I like in this movie. I still think to this day that the 2014 Godzilla movie has the best atmosphere out of all the MonsterVerse movies, like, in general, including Kong Skull Island. Fight me, bitches. It feels so imposing. Everything just feels like it's utterly and completely hopeless, and then when Godzilla comes out, he's fucking huge and imposing as shit, and like, I don't know. To describe what I'm talking about, I probably need to talk about this one scene, which just shows the right amount of respect to the king. There's this scene where the Mutos are like attacking a city, and they're like attacking an airport and walking by it, and you can get like a view of all the people in the runway and whatever, and they're like screaming and whatever, and then Godzilla walks past with his fucking footsteps that shake the ground, and everyone just goes silent. This movie treats Godzilla like he is the king, and I fucking love it. And despite a lot of people complaining that the atmosphere was too dark and it made the CG, kind of darker because they had to cut corners or whatever, I still think this movie looks amazing. Looking at the approach this movie took, having a more human-focused perspective on the giant titans, I think it works actually, kind of amazingly. As for those human characters that I've been complaining about all movie, I really don't care about them. They're all really one-tone and, like, have no deeper meaning to them whatsoever. I mean, none of the characters really do. I guess the later characters try to, even if they fail at it. And it's the only time a movie can actually be excused from having bad human characters. I mean, this isn't a movie about the human characters. It's about the fucking big boy. And that's what this movie does right. Speaking of the big boy, I think the fights in this movie are absolutely amazing. Even if, like I said, I have not known anything from Godzilla, I feel the love here. Getting to see him use his atomic breath and fucking biting Mutos in the neck and wrestling them down, it was insane. It's another thing this movie does really well during its fights, is actually having Godzilla feel like he is strong, but also, struggling. In future movies, Godzilla is just kind of beating the shit out of whoever he's fighting with, and it never feels like an actual fight that I don't know the outcome of. But here it was done right. I never knew if Godzilla was gonna win against these two Mutos, and it was fucking intense. There's this one scene nearing the end where Godzilla just falls on his back and he's tired, and he's looking at Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who's also on his back and tired, and they look at each other in the eyes, and it's like this scene of Godzilla finally just fucking standing up and beating the shit out of the Mutos and having that human will to finally, fight again. Like, in the future movies of the MonsterVerse, I feel like that role got given more to Kong, but I like it more on Godzilla for, like, a lot of reasons. He's supposed to be this representation of balance and of force of nature, but he also has that fucking human will, that, not wanting to give up, that guts struggler mentality, and I love seeing it. When he locks eyes with fucking Lieutenant Ford here, I felt something. It actually had an impact on me. I felt like I could relate to this big-ass lizard having to get up and finish what is his fucking fight, man. It was amazing. Like, the future movies never treat him like this again. Maybe, like, once, and that's a fucking shame, man. You shouldn't be treated like a cat sleeping in a thing. You should be treated like a force of nature with the will of a fucking human being. It's amazing. He represents Earth in the battle against everything that is not Earth, especially in the next movie, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. As for the way the actual fights look, like I said, I think it's alright. The movie's darker tone just worked for me, and I think the CG looks fine. A lot of the set pieces are also fine, and, like, I don't know, good choreography for a monster movie. I like a lot of the, like, scenes they tried doing, like the one in the jungle where they're, like, panning over the railway, and, the final battle in California is just honestly amazing. Like, the shitty thing of a Godzilla movie is that no matter what set piece you choose, it's probably gonna have to be just a city, and all you can do is show them destroying cities, and I think Godzilla 2014 gets that fucking destruction on the right, like, at the right scale. That's the word I'm looking for. When they fight here, it feels like a fucking fight. Buildings are getting demolished, smoke is everywhere, there's fire everywhere. Like, there's a scene where they're dropping in, and it's just like, holy shit. This is no longer a city that people live in. This is a fucking hellscape. What else? What else did I like about this movie? Dr. Serizawa says, let them fight. That was pretty cool. Fuck, we have to talk about the negatives. This movie, despite being probably my favorite out of the entire Monsterverse, yeah, I said it, fight me, bitch, still has quite a lot of flaws, which are considerably, big, and bring its score down in the long run. Don't get me wrong, Godzilla 2014 is not by any means a bad movie, and I'd still definitely recommend watching it, but yeah, it focuses way too much on its humans, which yet again makes sense. They had to save budget on, just constantly showing CGI, and also they got quite a handful of big actors here, so you can just use them. The only problem is that these human characters aren't nearly developed or, like, interesting enough to make me give a shit. I still liked seeing Aaron Taylor-Johnson just running around and shit, but, like, after the third time he nearly died, I stopped caring. He doesn't say anything, you can't hear his thoughts, he has no internal conflict, or well, he did until it fucking died. And, like, yeah, Elizabeth Olsen doesn't do anything, Dr. Serizawa doesn't do anything, they're all just spectators, and for some reason we are spectating the spectators spectate the monsters. And, like, we get to see the spectators a lot more than we get to see the monsters. I'd say it's an inherent problem of having human beings in this movie. Without them, the movie would kinda suck. Just seeing monsters fight for, like 2 hours would be a little bit unreasonable. Having humans gives you something to connect and project through, and whilst I definitely see what they were going for with the approach in this movie, I think it falls flat in most instances. Like I said, it definitely has a little bit more of a horror-y feel, not because it's scary, but because they were trying to go for a more human and, like, realistic destruction of a city vibe. And sometimes it works, other times it doesn't, and I don't know how to feel about it. I'm not super against how they did it, especially looking at the future movies, which did it, in my opinion, a lot worse. But I also think it could have been improved in a lot of ways. But yeah, the human interaction here could definitely have been cut down by a lot, especially Bryan Cranston. He shouldn't have been in this movie. Why was he in this movie? Poor motherfucker died in like 10 seconds, dude. Man didn't even get to see the Zilla Beast. He died so fucking unceremoniously, too. Like, what the fuck? Why was he standing there? He could've ran. Also, how specific was the timing for him to decide to go in here when his son was there? What if he wasn't? Would we not have seen Aaron Taylor-Johnson through the rest of this movie? What the hell? This feels really weird. I don't know. Fucking poor Bryan Cranston. He probably got paid a lot for this, but his... it's really sad. Also, between the last video and now, I have completely rewatched the entirety of Breaking Bad. Like, that's not relevant to anything, I just wanted to put it in here. The pacing. This movie was way too long in my, personal opinion. I'm very finicky when it comes to how movies pace themselves because they either do shit way too fast or take their time on stuff that should have been, I don't know, a little bit less focused on. One of the big problems I have of Avatar 2, but I'm not getting sidetracked right now because my ADHD will literally throw me into an entirely different video that I'm not ready to make yet. This movie drags on in a lot of spots, especially in the start, where it just feels like we're following a whole lot of nothing and not seeing enough of the monsters, Like, oh, they're gonna fight, get ready for it, they're gonna fight. Oh, he punched it, okay, yeah, they're going to California. here's Aaron Taylor Johnson defusing a bomb or whatever. Like, I don't know, if they had cut down the runtime of this movie, I think I would have enjoyed it significantly more, because honestly, in the start of this movie, the temptation to just be on my phone was way too big. Like, really, guys, you gotta do this better. I think it's something they improve on in the next movies, but yet again, probably because they had a bigger budget. And also because it was directed by someone completely different, but we'll get to that. I also have quite a few nitpicks with this movie for shit that isn't really the movie's fault, you know, just because I'm a nerd or whatever. The monsters going into Tokyo was kind of weird to me. Like, why would the Titans meet in Tokyo to fight? Why didn't they do it over the water? I'm pretty sure the Mutos would have had advantage had they done it over the water, you know? Maybe not, I don't know. It just seems like kind of weird that they keep going specifically to cities to fight, like, what the fuck? What's up with that? What else? Godzilla's scaling was a little bit off for like a lot of the movie, which created complications for the next movies. Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say. Look, I'm gonna be real with you, I made this video almost completely on impulse because I wanted to. I really got into the mood to film even though I was sick and I didn't really have anything planned out, so this video turned into way more of a mess than in what it actually was supposed to be. Don't get me wrong, I have actually been wanting to make a video on the Godzilla movie for a while now, I just didn't really plan it out like I should have, and I guess that one's on me. I'm still pretty new to the entire YouTube thing, and reviewing movies is definitely not something that should be done in the way I just did it, but if you found some enjoyment, I guess that's cool. I do want to review the Monsterverse in full. Depending on how this video does, I probably will, and if I ever do, I promise I will, you know, do it a little bit better than I did this one. This one was kind of a mess, huh? My overall consensus on the Godzilla 2014 movie is that it was a breath of fresh air for Godzilla fans and just kaiju fans in general. Getting to see Godzilla treated with the right respect and, you know, actually fighting a monster that we cared about in full CG felt really fucking good. And honestly, I'll say it, this is one of my favorite movies in the entire Monsterverse, maybe my favorite of all time. I don't know, it's just something about it. Maybe it reminds me of Cloverfield. Maybe it was just because it was the first time I got to see the Godzilla creature in its full, you know, full habitat or whatever, you know, the beast, the legend, the LeBron James ass-kicking motherfucker. I kinda really like this movie and I don't have the words to explain why. Maybe it's just the sound design or the choreography. Maybe it's because Walter White was here. I really like how most of my humor in this video was based off of haha lol Breaking Bad. God, why am I making this? Who watched this? Why are you watching this? Fucking leave. It's not too late. Anyway, I give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. I do genuinely like this one. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna really review these movies like movies. I'm honestly reviewing them purely on how much I enjoyed them, and I enjoyed this movie quite a lot. If you're not a fan of the Monsterverse, I definitely recommend starting here. Its vibes are way different from the rest, and I think you might enjoy it if you're a horror kaiju fan like me. Not because this is a horror movie, just because it has a more serious atmosphere, which could be cool to some people. I don't know, I'm gonna be real with you, even after reviewing it and just pulling words out of my ass for like 30 minutes straight, I still don't know how I feel about this movie completely. I genuinely do like it, but I also don't understand why I like it more than the rest of the movies. I don't know. I'm such a good movie reviewer, guys. Ooh, look at me, man. Fucking Slenderman video got 50 views. I wonder why. If you did somehow manage to enjoy my word jumble of sickly fucking dumbass words, maybe leave a like if you wanna, you don't gotta. If this video does well, I will maybe make a video on the fucking second movie and like maybe even cover the entire Monsterverse if I get the time for that. I do intend on making an upload schedule which is a little bit, you know, smoother than this one, but right now this is about all my schedule lets me do. Sorry, you know, college is a bitch and whatever. If I do ever make another video like this, I promise it'll be more organized, and I swear I'm not just gonna say that at the end of every video. I do genuinely intend on making a better video at some point. I just wanted to film, and this was my excuse to. I'm not gonna be too serious when talking about Godzilla. if you want to see a better version of this video, go to Pointlesshub, or maybe you already have. He did a pretty good video on it too, one that was significantly better than mine. Ciao. Why are you still here?